fear it's looking pretty bad for Mr. Arthur Morgan right now. Let's discuss. Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a very deathly early morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. I believe it is Wednesday, so happy Wednesday to everyone out there. Happy hump day. We're already halfway through the week. Doesn't mean shit because cryptocurrency is 27.4 anyways, or wait, no, 24/7. That's what I mean to say. Anyways, early morning dyslexia at full effect, so I do apologize in advance for that. But we do have plenty to talk about following up on yesterday's short-term and medium-term time frame analysis. And first and foremost, as always, we'll start off with the good old Krown Chain application over here, which we found at app.krownchain.net. And what do we see? We see plenty of things actually going on right now. Bitcoin dominance more or less steady right around that 68.5% region. We still haven't seen a major direction being chosen on that just yet, so I do want to check out on some of the major altcoin Bitcoin pairings, maybe even to a little bit of a round on the Bitcoin dominance chart as well. Also, fear and greed index, big dump down here. Actually, the lowest that we've seen it, funnily enough, the lowest that we've seen it in the last 2-3 months. I'll pull up a chart soon enough, but as you can see, it did come down. Actually, yesterday it was hanging around, I believe, in 86, now coming down to 78, which is the first time that we've been seen below 80, I believe it is, since perhaps November, which is quite the time. Also, open interest coming down significantly as well, another 300-400 million shaved off of that. And over the last few days, since Bitcoin did come down from about $40,000, we did see it come down from about 6.5 billion, actually a little bit above 6.5 billion, now down to about 5.1 billion. So that is still suggestive that this market is being run by essentially longs taking profit, which does imply long-term healthiness. But does long-term healthiness help out the short-term, medium-term when you have ranges of $10,000 plus? Well, not so much, especially for over leverage. So with that said, what else do we want to check on before we get into the actual price action charts themselves? That's right, the data tab over here. Do we still have any more issues with the global funding rate? As yesterday, it did seem like it was cooling off quite a fair bit, and looking okay now. FTX still a little bit out there at 0.1%, but everyone else below that threshold, and that is not a major consideration for me as it is. I also want to put the focus over here on the fear and greed index, as you can see in chart format. And yes, this quite literally is the lowest that we've seen it since actually beginning of November, so quite literally a little bit more than 2 months now, and we're still technically speaking greedy, but now instead of being extremely greedy, just regular greedy, so all good. Anyways, with that said, I look at this as a warning signal. However, it's not an actionable signal in and of itself. It needs to be combined with other things, more importantly, price action. So with that in mind, we'll get into it in just a second. But do you have any announcements? I'll be on Twitch today. Yes, we got to follow up on good old that motherfucker Dutch. Dutch is at it again, man. So we need to put a stop to his whole antics. I've had enough of this motherfucker. And on top of that, what else do I want to say? Discord, yeah, Discord's open and available to anyone out there. If you so happen to want to join, the link's in the description below. There is a bit of a extra thing that you need to do once you get into the server. You're going to be prompted with a private message in the top left-hand corner of your Discord from our security bot, actually Identifier, who will run you through a little quick verification thing. Takes like a minute or two. Links it up to one of your social medias, which lets us know that you're not a bot, so you won't spam people in the server, and it can be a nice and cool enclosure. Also, of course, I should let you know that while we are happy to have anyone in the Discord, we do have rules, of course, and if you can't have an adult conversation, if you are unable to disagree with someone while still being civil, then we're probably going to kick you and then maybe even ban you at some point too. But you will get a warning. So fair enough. With that said, as always, we do put faith in you first. So again, you're more than welcome to join on in if you can get through that very nasty Identifier bot. Okay, cool. Anything else here that I want to put the focus on? No, not really. I don't really see anything outside of the ordinary here. So you know what? Let's go to the price action charts themselves. We'll start off with our trolling balance again, because we do have one major different thing here that we haven't seen for actually about a month now, and that is the 3-day closing below the top side trolling band. So what does this put into motion now? As I have been using this to kind of just gather the strength of trend and the more immediate continuation of trend. Now getting our first closure below, what does that equate to? Likely, well, at the very least, a consolidation sideways. And if the bears have their say about it, then we will be testing to the downside. However, as you can see here, the 20 simple on your Troll bands, your traditional moving average on it, which is just this brown line right here, that's actually coming in all the way down at around $25,000. So with that in mind, in very strong markets, typically you actually won't come back down and test there. However, if this 9 exponential moving average starts to fail right here on a closing basis, then yes, I would start to look for a drive down to that 20 simple and a range to be created there. But for right now, I still do hold with the $30,000 low, or 30,500 if you want to be super exact, and about a $40,000 high. And I'd be looking for a sideways range, as we spoke about yesterday and the day before, to extrapolate from that region and likely put in some time, as Bitcoin's been more or less just melting to the upside for months on end. And I should recall back to the last time that Bitcoin had this similar signature here, where you do see that it was crawling above the topside Krown band since October, going all the way into late November, early December, and then you get your first closure blow right here, sideways market between the 9 exponential moving average and the top side of the Krown bands before closing above, and further continuation, another melting phase to the upside. So what does that what does it essentially mean? Well, first and foremost, I still remain with a long-term bullish bias, especially as long as Bitcoin is in an uptrend on a 3-day. Now, is that really all that helpful? Well, it is helpful. The problem is, though, is that if you are looking at this from a trend analysis perspective, where's your last higher low? It would be all the way, I mean, you can't even really call this a higher low on a 3-day. You actually have to go all the way back on over here, and that's about $10,000. Maybe on a 2-day, we could get a higher low in the $18,000 region. Yes, indeed, we can. So fair enough. But back onto the 3-day right here, what I do still run with the assumption is, again, as long as Bitcoin is above about $30,500, which will zero in on the short-term timeframes and follow from yesterday's short-term analysis, then I do essentially look at this as more or less a healthy consolidation on the higher term timeframes. Lower term timeframes obviously playing out a little bit of drama. And again, is that all that helpful for someone out there who hears, yes, still long-term okay, as long as above 30,500, when the range is fucking massive and people are usually over leveraged in a market like this. So again, this trading, sometimes it can be a little more difficult, especially when things do not just go straight fucking up, right? There's that great saying, don't confuse brains with the bull market. And, I'll be the first one to tell you, man, you do not need to be a professional trader to make money in a market like this. You need to be a professional trader in order to realize profits in a market like this, because that's typically where people do get tripped up. I'm always the first one to admit as well, a dumb bull, or just a bull, a blind fucking bull, is going to make more money than a professional trader in a market like this, mostly because, well, if you're straight up from fucking 10,000 to 40,000, it's kind of hard to beat, especially when people are like DCAing into all of the 5-minute dips, which is just ridiculous. But at the end of the day, as we all know from 2018 to 2020 and several segments before, and especially if you've traded other markets, well, what goes up typically does come down, and so at some point, real skills will be needed. But still, I do look at this as macro bullish here, to be fair, especially as long as Bitcoin's above $30,000, and even as long as Bitcoin's above $20,000 right here. Still long-term good, but that does create a massive range. So let's actually dial it down. Or actually, before we get into that, because we did just have a fresh 3-day closure, I do want to highlight this as well. So remember that signature that we were looking at for the MACD histogram to kind of denote when the next consolidation phase, at the very least, or maybe even reversal phase, does occur. Well, we did get that confirmed last night, as you do see these two guys converging on each other, or girls, whatever the fuck they want to be called. And that has been a good signal in the past that Bitcoin is going to go into a bit of a sideways market here. Last time that we saw this was all the way in late November for this sideways action right below $20,000, and the time before that was actually way the fuck on over here before this consolidation lower, albeit putting in higher lows, but again, a major range explored right there. So likely Bitcoin's going to take its time. I don't think right now is like the day to be looking for further continuation to the upside, except within the context of this current range, which has a high of about $40,000. So I want to be very, 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 very directly clear in stating that, because here, I'll probably put like some sort of clickbait bullshit title for this video, but for anyone who's been on this channel for at least like a month now probably knows this, that the title of these videos have extremely little to do with the actual content of them, just playing the YouTube game, as does everyone. Soon enough, I'll be doing like the O face, like how do people do it? They go, okay, first they point, right? They point and they go like this. Like my BBC size fucking microphone over here. Just suck that air cock, baby, and people will start viewing your videos. It's the secret. But But fair enough, you know, maybe I have to do that as well if I want this channel to like really get going. But then again, that's not really my priority. Again, my first major business is as a trader, not as a YouTube. So I don't really feel all that compelled to do that sort of stuff. Although I do understand, you know, why people do it. You know, it definitely gets the views, definitely works. But it's also really fucking funny to make fun of too. And you know, a lot of these guys I know, a lot of these guys I've done videos with, a lot of these guys I like. But it is fucking funny. You know, I can't lie and say that it's not fucking funny because it is. Anyways, okay, anything else that we want to talk about on the 3-day here? Yeah, we do have a bit of a volume climax on that last 3-day dildo. So this last one was really important. And actually, to follow up from someone in the program who asked this question yesterday, LB referred to you as, I think you know who you are. So this massive volume bar right here, which represents about 75,000 coins traded on Stamp. I'm curious what it looks like on GDEX. Yeah, that's about 200,000 on GDEX, and on Mexico, where it represented in dollars, that's going to be about almost 17 billion done in 3 days. That is coming in on climactic volume. So yesterday it was a potential that we were going to close above the top side Toronto band, which would have further implied that this was some buying pressure. Instead, you do see that while it did trade all the way down from the top about, I think about 20%. Let's actually zero in on this right now. Something like this about, yeah, actually, whoa, quite significantly, almost 28% right there. Wow. It did end up with about, 20% of that. So yesterday when we were looking at it, I think it was down like 20% and then popped up and was holding about, 7% of that, which was pretty damn impressive. And that would have implied some buying pressure. At closure, and this is why it's so important to be waiting for closure. That's clearly not the fact. This was coming in on selling pressure right here. So at the very least, a range, potentially reversal. And if it is reversal, targets down to 23,000 will be initiated, maybe even lower than that over time. But for now, I still hold with the $30,000 to $40,000 range. And let's see what's on the 2-day just in case. Very similar chart here on the 2-day, so I don't really have anything to add on to this one as well. I would put a highlight on this here too. By the way, the ADX did get the top side of this move extremely well as well. Once that turned to not trending right now, that was a damn good signal. What I would be cognizant of is maybe the DMI minus getting a little bit dominant here. It is getting closer and closer to that region. What about the daily? Yeah, the daily is actually right there. So if the DMI minus does get positive, here's what I should be looking for next. If I really do want to see a break of 30,000 bucks, DMI minus dominant above the 24 threshold right here, and then also ADX strengthening. If you see that on the daily, that's probably gonna be a good signal that yes, we will break down below $30,000, and 23 to 24,000 bucks would be the next target. Again, until that happens, I still look at this as sideways action between about 30 and 40,000, and I look at that as more or less constructive on the whole, and likely to get continuation of the upside overall. Anyways, where's my water, man? I am motherfucking thirsty right now. Let's go into the shorter term timeframes over here. But first and foremost, I need a sippy sip. Oh, man. Blowing that fucking BBC size microphone. Jesus Christ, man. It's like, you have to take that picture, and like, you might not get it perfect on the first time. So you're like, fuck, am I sucking this mic off well enough this time? Is this going to get the views? No, I need to make it even more ridiculous. Like, it's like, what the fuck, man? It's got to be great to be a fly on the wall for those. You just like imagine a phone full of an album of all these pictures and shit. It's just great, just fucking great, man. Anyways, okay, lower term time frames over here on spot price action charts. What do we see? Let's actually put on our drawing tools once again. Does look like Bitcoin wants to puke again and test the downside. So yesterday I did do on what would have been the Forex video, but it was more or less just a Bitcoin wrap-up video. I did say that Bitcoin was likely to come back down and at the very least test a low $32,000 region. We did get that test. So far, so good on the bounce, but it's not looking like it wants to hold up around here. I would certainly not put it past Bitcoin to come back down and officially test the big bad blue box of Destiny. And would I be interested in taking another position right here? Likely yes, at least for a scalp. But would it be like a hodl trade? That I'm not so sure of. But I probably am interested in scalp over there. Of course, it's not finished advice. I'm not a finished advisor, but does offer up a little bit of a nice edge and is tested rather aggressively over the last few days. So I do like that as well. More importantly, with this though, we do see that 4-hour momentum oscillators are pointed. Whoops! Hey, get the fuck out of my face there. We do see that 4-hour momentum oscillators are once again pointed to the south side, actually rejecting getting out of the bearish control zone, which is not a good sign and will remain to the downside as long as we are closing below 33,700, which is coming in the next 3 hours, 17 minutes, and 51 seconds. So, does Bitcoin come back down and grind out that 31,000 or even 30,500-ish region right here? Yes, I do think so. Does that imply that we're actually going to break it? No. So I want to be very, 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 very deliberately clear with this. If I am using a 4-hour, if I am using a 4-hour right here to kind of judge my trades, which I do think can work in fast markets like this rather well, any sort of a closure below 30,500, this bottom echelon right here, problems. Well, problems if you want to be bullish, that is, where I start to look towards targets back down towards 23 to 24,000, all the way back on over here. Now, yes, bounces would be implied at these levels that I have horizontally marked off over here. But they would likely just be that, just bounces. So again, I want to see a closure below there before I actually get, medium term bearish and look for the next, potentially $8,000 move to the downside, which is rather, that's rather tradable, you might say. For now though, I would just be looking for another drive down here. At the very least, that would be 32,150 and probably does get another wick down towards like 30,500. But again, until it actually breaks, I'm not actually bearish, and I still look at that as an opportunity from a trader's perspective, that is. Anyways, putting back on the drawing tools right here, or actually, let's put them back on right here. Now that we have a lower high on the 4-hour, we can use this to kind of judge the current trajectory from a more medium-term time frame trade to the upside. That meaning that if Bitcoin can get back above this high right here, whether it's either a wick above, which would be 36,671.5, or a closure above, which would be 36,500 basically, then I would be looking for another drive back up, essentially to 40,000 bucks and fill the CME gap that we closed on Friday last week, right around this region as well. So that would still be available and still hold some weight. But as you can see right here on CME, it looks very, very likely that Bitcoin's going to come back down and test, somewhere around about 31,000 bucks. Anyways, what else do we want to say? 4-hour RSI. Yep, a little bit. Certainly losing its luster. I would not say that this is constructive anymore. In fact, I would not say that this is constructive anymore. No, it needs to create something new, and could lead into that medium-term reversal. Yes, HVP red as fuck, which makes me think that we probably don't continue this trend to the downside. We probably test the downside, but hold up once again. If it is going to break, it probably takes its time. It's unlikely to happen today, but then again, could be wrong. Obviously, if price action does confirm that, I go along with that regardless of what fucking HVP says, but that does give me the bias that it probably doesn't, and thus could be a nice scalping opportunity. Moving on to the 3-hour, what do we see right here? Same shit, basically. 3-hour Stokes turning back down as well. As long as we're below 33,000 bucks, they will remain to the downside. And what else do we see? We see the 200 simple and 200 exponential average right at the bottom side targets of this range as well, about $31,000. So does Bitcoin get another wick down there? It looks rather likely, yes. 3-hour RSI, do we have anything to talk about here? Again, losing its constructiveness here too. I don't like it as much anymore, but needs more time to really present something more obvious that offers up, trading edge. So can't really say much more about it other than that. What about bi-hourly right here? We do see momentum will remain to the downside as long as we're below about 35,400. So that's looking rather likely in the next hour and 14 minutes and 31 seconds. So as you've probably noticed, all lower term timeframes are downside angled right now. Even Caretaker showing off some hidden bearish divergence right here on those last 2 drives to the upside. That's also some of the reasons why I did take profits on those scalpy scalps from yesterday. And once again, turning back down 2-hour, but 2-hour RSI is very clearly downside angled, and also HVP here red as the fucking double stick. So very, very likely another test to the downside. And I'd be looking for a bounce on the first pass at the very least. Hourly looks like it wants to puke it up again. It looks very fucking nasty right here. Don't really have anything to add on to this except for the most obvious of obvious things, and it's this. The hourly seems to be in a downtrend. We have lower lows and lower highs. Also a death cross in the hourly here too, so it's going to fucking zero. For reference, the bi-hourly is nowhere near getting a death cross, and I don't even really care about death crosses until we get to the 4-hour. That would be quite devastating, especially in a market that can move in $10,000 in a day. That would be fucking something. But still, very, very far away. It would take a lot of price action, like below 30,000 bucks, and to remain there for a month or two before we'd even have to deal with that. So fair enough. Anyways, back onto the 10-hour. What do we see on the medium term time frames? Actually, haven't covered this one in a while, but I should get back onto it because the 10-hour Stokes actually back testing this one seems to be working rather well once again. The hourly and 10-hour matching them up have been phenomenal. In fact, 2 time frames that I don't typically match up with each other, but in this case, they have been good. Where did we turn 10-hour momentum oscillators back onto the upside? 32,800. So that tick is coming in 5 hours, 12 minutes. How much damage can be done before then? Not so sure, but there is a couple of other competing narratives that I do want to highlight here as well. 10-hour does have a pretty nasty moving average cross going on right here. 10 simple and 21 exponential average. If you're in the program, reference that video because that one is certainly relevant here. And then the 4 hour, the 21 and the 55, another big one that at the very least would likely call another test back down to about 31,000 bucks. So keep that one in mind as well, especially as momentum also has turned down. You know, I do favor the downside short term very, 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 very much. Again, I'm not calling a break below there though. And a lot of people are calling this a head and shoulders right here. Technically, could it work as the head and shoulders? I mean, technically speaking, the volume signature on this would not be proper, and you want to see symmetry between your shoulders. We don't necessarily have it that well right here, and it's really kind of falls apart when you look at like a daily. Like this is obviously not. So I don't necessarily agree with that. For the people who are saying that, I'm sure that it would have a target, you know, much lower. Let's call it like, well, it's going to be, yeah, just doing some mental math. It's going to be about 20,000 bucks or 18,000 bucks. You know, so is that in the cards? I do think that that's in the cards, but I'd be going off of price structure anyways. Regardless of that, I don't really like patterns in this market, except for triangles seem to work pretty damn well in Bitcoin land. Other patterns, yeah, less so. Head and shoulders are okay, but not a great hit rate. If it's on the same, well, no, I wouldn't even say that. Yeah, I'll hold off on that statement. Let's go to the 12 hour and see what the 12 hour is showing. 12 hour Stokes still downside angled. It's long below about 40,000 bucks or 39,000 bucks at the very least. So pretty nasty right there. 12 hour RSI coming down in the neutral zone. So yes, I do think that it has a little more to fill here. I would be cognizant of this trend line, however. This one speaking towards the medium term timeframes. Obviously, this would imply another tick to the downside though, but it would say that if we are going to maintain this trajectory, and this one's actually coming in all the way from, actually no, that would not be the same thing. So I'm taking even a more aggressive one, but this is coming from September, so that does matter. But if this is going to play, we expect it to bounce on the next tick. So that means, you know, could be another wick lower, but must bounce, aka don't break 30,500. That's the key critical one right there. And of course, we got the 55 right around where you fucking guessed it, the bottom side support thus far. So I do think that Bitcoin is gearing up for a downside test. Does not imply a downside break though. Daily Stokes going to remain to the downside as long as below 41,000 bucks. Looks a little bit unlikely that we're going to see that criteria met today. Do we have a trend line coming in right here? We do, and it would be coming in right around the edge of the bullish control zone, which typically is kind of a nice basing area anyways. So I would be looking, so you know, if I'm looking for this to play out, I probably do look for it to come down another day. But if it is going to play off this trend line, you know, probably bounce Thursday at the very latest Friday. Otherwise big problems, because not only are you going to be losing this, which is going all the way back to late September on this whole move coming out from 10,000 bucks on this base, but also the issue would be as you're coming out of the bullish control zone as well on the daily, which actually has been, you know, well, you can see the results for yourself. Bitcoin being within the bullish control zone this whole time does essentially, you know, operate as intended. Looking at daily RSI, I'd probably be looking for a bounce here, to be fair. Again, similar trend line to what we see on the 12 hour as well, and this one will be testing on closure today, extremely likely. So must bounce, or it's not that it must bounce, it just must not break about 30,000 bucks. Otherwise problems, sir, problems. Do we have anything on the 2-day here to be aware of? Still bounce off the 10 simple. I mean, could we have wicks down to the 21? Potentially, yes. And then the 3-day 10 simple coming in, yeah, 30,500. So not really getting anything too unique off these charts, but further confirming those prior biases. What else do we want to check out? CMEs. Yeah, let's go check out CMEs. How did they close? Yeah, CMEs closing a little bit more as a potential reversal. If we take out last 3-day low, this one would suggest that, yeah, we would dip down into the mid $20,000 region. In fact, 3-day RSI still, yeah, a little bit under pressure here. Definitely short-term downside angled, but that is not, yeah, that's not actionable in and of itself just yet. And there's something else that, oh yeah, that's right. You know, the daily RSI piece that I wanted to say as well. So while I am probably looking for some downside on Bitcoin, you know, in the very short-term timeframes, do not confuse that again with a long-term move. We've actually never really seen a Bitcoin high being put in the context of bullish market, because some people push back on the statement, but when they push back on it, they always get this part wrong. It comes out to, they look at it in a, well, either a sideways market or a bearish market. like 2014 to 2015, for example, and 2018 to 2020, for example, as well. But in this case right here, Bitcoin in a full-on macro upside move, I would still look for daily bearish divergence to call the top, and I wouldn't really be willing to call any sort of a long-term or macro top until that happens. Can we still have a medium-term top? Yes, absolutely, and that's likely what we're looking at right here, and which likely does produce some sideways movement. But until I see something like that, I probably wouldn't. I would certainly not be willing to call, at least with historically minded, the major top of this rally. And it's probably going to take its time. It's probably going to extrapolate over the next few months rather than just the next day. Which I feel like a lot of people who are new into this market, they've been blessed. They've been blessed and baptized, and also in some ways a very terrible way of doing this, but they've been blessed with these major moves, which conditions you to think that that's normal when it's not. If you've been in this market since even 2018, that there can be days where you have a fucking $100 range, like back on over here, quite nasty. There can be months of just extremely boring action. And if you trade out the markets as well, same thing. This is certainly not just exclusive to Bitcoin. And but those people, they're going to have a very difficult time probably looking at something like this. So fair enough. What else do you want to talk about? Yeah, let's go over to Caretaker over here. I just want to see that he confirms my ranges. Yep, 31.5 to the downside on an hourly, and yep, getting this high right here on the hourly, so 36.5. So this one is working rather well, and this is defining it as a bear zone consolidation with momentum to the downside right now, and showing 30,500 right here. Perfect, fucking perfect. Nice and well done. Further confirms that as it should. And what do you know? I'd still be looking for a bounce off that region if and when Bitcoin does come back down and test it. Let's go check out traditional markets really quick. I want to see what NASDAQ futures are looking like. Did we get our move down to 12,750? We did. Hey, not bad, huh? Sometimes that TA fucking bullshit works, doesn't it? Every once in a while. Let's not get crazy now, though. It's hocus pocus now, isn't it? But looking at this right here, do I still remain bullish on this long term? Yeah, I do. I guess, again, as long as it's above last week's low, which is, admittedly 12,500, not all that helpful. I can't really get long-term bearish on this, obviously, and the daily just coming back down to Tesla 21 is not problematic in and of itself either. So I do still run with the former assumption that this one is upside angled here based off the higher term timeframes, but the lower term timeframes, do we see? Yeah, actually the lower term timeframes will be looking for a little bit of up action here as well, probably back up to 13,000 bucks. What about SPY futures? Same thing. Actually, this one looking a lot more healthy in the short-term timeframes. Be looking for this one to pop back up to 38.15 region. Yesterday, we were looking for a move down to 37.50. We got down 37.68. Close enough in this case. But yes, I would be looking for this one to, remain bullish. This is just to be interpreted as a backfill on the prior weekly open and another try to the upside. I'm not bearish on these. I'm not bearish on traditional markets. So if I'm not bearish on traditional markets, should I be bearish on Bitcoin? Well, historically speaking, and also correlationally minded, no, not at all. In fact, again, Bitcoin can play out some short-term and medium-term downside moves, just like we saw right here. But as long as this one's bullish, it's kind of difficult to get bearish on anything else, as far as like the macro goes. Let's see. What about the tech sector? Did we see anything new there? Tech sector. Oh, this is very interesting. So when we actually nail it down, so let me explain. NASDAQ is a conglomeration of the tech sector and financial sector. So that's XLK and XLF. If you want to zero it down right here. Bitcoin is obviously more correlated with the tech sector actually rather than the financial sector, which is rather interesting. But as you can see right here, the financial sector, this one's clearly up and away, looking good. Tech sector, not as much. In fact, the tech sector could be in a reversal here. If we take out last week's low, I'd actually be at least, I'd be looking for a big move down to about 120-ish region. So keep that in mind. If you do see this one take it out, that could be a damn good signal. Anyways, what else do we have? Oh my God, we're already 20 minutes into this, but what the fuck, man? What the fuck? Let's see. What about Link? Let's go check out some Linky Dinky. Still bouncing off the 21 on the weekly. Or, yeah. Probably does test back down towards $13, but probably be looking for a bounce there again. It's going to follow whatever Bitcoin does on the whole, to be fair. It's not even really worthwhile to look at this bullshit. Same thing with Butyrol. Probably does test back down towards like 969, good number right there, and then follows whatever Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin wants to bounce, which I think it will, then probably bounces as well. Probably bounces back up to where we are right now. Let's see. What about Bitcoin, Don? Let's just get a brief overview of the altcoin market here. Next move down, yes. Short term, that is, but daily, yeah, same thing. Yeah. This is starting to look a little bit more like a reversal. Definitely not confirmed as of just yet, but it is starting to look a little bit more like it, yes. So is it, should I get bullish on alts versus Bitcoin? Well, then I look at the monthly and no. For short-term moves, yes. Short-term moves. While Bitcoin ranges, yes, it's likely to benefit alts. So Bitcoin caught in a range between 30,000 and 40,000. I would look for a bit of a mini altcoin season here. And, oh, hello. Good morning, sir. How are you doing? Nice robes. What would you like to say about Arthur Morgan? Did you hear about Rhett? Did you hear how he saved eagle flies? He is dying. It's very sad, actually. Fucking Dutch. Fucking Dutch. That asshole. We're gonna hold a. We're gonna do our best for him. Okay. We're gonna do our best for him. Tuberculosis is a hell of a thing to deal with. All right. Cardano. See if this one's looking good, then I have to be bullish on all alts. Well, it's not looking super bad, but it's not looking super good either. What about Link? Nothing doing. I'd look for it to grind out the lows once again. 37.5. Probably does test back up to 46,000 as well. It's ranging right now. Lower term time frames are clearly in a downtrend though. Yeah, I'd be looking for next move down. This one's clearly in a downtrend here. Hidden bearish evidence, 1, 2, 3 drives, boom. I'd be looking for this one to come back down, 37,400 next move. Cardano, we already looked at that one. Yeah, no dice, not interested. What about Buteral Bitcoin? Ooh, in a decision phase, did just get a golden cross, but this is your baiting of a trap. If this one comes back down below what is this? 2,950,000 Satoshis. I would be bearish on this one. And this would be a clear fake out if that happens. That's classic trappy move. But as long as it remains above, I suppose I respect the golden cross, sir. Okay, have we beat this horse to death just yet? I think so. I think we have, yes. Alrighty then. Alrighty then, let's go back and wrap this bitch up then. How about that? Let's go back on over here. Let's go back on over here. Let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 3-day. Once again, no. Let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 3-day. For the first time in a while, actually, closing above the top side trend band, which does set in the bias that now we're going to see a consolidation, sideways consolidation that is, a little bit sideways and down. God damn it, can't get on my words. I need more caffeine, sir. Let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 3-day for the first time in over a couple months, closing below the top side trend band, which will set in a bias of a nice medium-term sideways range between the $30,000 base and the $40,000 high. As long as we're living between those two regions, no real major moves that I'd be looking for, no real major reversal that I'd be looking for, just a sideways consolidation, which would be overall implied healthy within the context of this current market cycle. Now, below $30,000, we do have issues. However, again, just running through this right here, I would recall the last few times that we have been trending on this time frame, and you can recall back on over here to late of October, where Bitcoin did break above the top side trend band, boom for the next month and a half, just trending above it, does close below, then creates a range between the top side and the 9 exponential moving average right here. As you can see, that would be coming in right around your $31,500 base, and if we zero it down in on the lower term time frames, it does look like that holds true as we put on our drawing tools right here. The critical area to be aware of is obviously the same blue box that we've had in here for the last, like week or so, coming off this $30,500 low. Once again, testing more recently on the 11th of January, which was 2 days ago. And looking at the short-term time frames right now, does it look like Bitcoin wants to come back down and test around that region? Yes, it does. We do see that momentum oscillators on the 4-hour and all lower-term time frames. Here's your 3-hour, here's your bi-hourly, and here's your hourly are all downside angled right now. So am I looking for another test to the downside? Yes. Am I looking for a bounce off this region as well? Yes. Again, as long as Bitcoin, while I am looking for a test back down in this region, 30,500, I'm not implying that there's going to be a break of this region just yet until we get a 4-hour closure below 30,500, or if we see a daily closure below If we see a daily closure below about 32,000, that'd be pretty problematic as well. Then yes, I would be looking for an actual break of that level, and that's going to imply further targets to the south side with bounces along the way. But ultimately, the target would be down between about 23 and 24,000 all the way on over here. So we're talking about a big move. We're talking about, you know, an $8,000 move, almost $10,000 move from this current price point, to be fair. Now, with that in mind, there would be bounces along the way, 29.5 right here, 27.5 right here, 26.2 right here, but all of those bounces likely do fail, and I would be looking for potentially even long-term positions within this region down here. That is assuming that we actually get this, but of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. By the same token, if we are going to be looking at the short-term timeframes, the same ranges apply as yesterday, except now that we do have a confirmed local high on the 4-hour, we can use this as a bias buster for a medium-term timeframe trade. And if Bitcoin does do one of these two things, either closing above the closure on this, which is 36,500, or wicking above the prior high on this range, which is 36,671.5 on Mexico, then I would be looking for another drive back up somewhere around or somewhere between about 39,000 and 40,000 bucks, which would fulfill the CME gap that Bitcoin closed on Friday of last week. And I'd likely look for another pushback right there and the range to continue essentially. So I'm in no real rush to get into a long-term position right now because I'd be looking for this area to get filled out a little bit more. And potentially, you know, of course, on the other hand, things could break to the downside, and that would set into motion a new set of biases with further price action to the downside. But that, as it stands right now, we do have a short-term range also implied here at 34,500, same areas we had before. If Bitcoin does close above this region, I would look likely for a test back up here, and then that next set can be implied with breaking this area right here, of course. So with that said, again, if I had to call it right now, if you put a gun to my head and said Krown, call it or die. I'd say first move down probably does bounce off this $30,000 or $31,000 region again, and then game on after that. So with that said, I'll be back on later with some Twitch live stream action and maybe another Forex video as well. So with that said, take care, and until next time.